Good morning. We're still in Second Peter. Now we're going to see a subject change. We're in chapter 3. Peter's, just in the first two verses, just told them essentially why he wrote a second letter to them, the importance of, restirring our minds in scriptural ways. Now he's going to change the subject slightly. So let me start in verse 3. He says, "First of all, you must understand that in the last days, scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires. They will say, 'Where is this coming he promised? Ever since our fathers died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation.'" I'm going to stop there now. He's going to continue the subject a bit, but let's pick it up. So he's saying in the last days, scoffers will come. Now, when the scriptures talks about the last days, it talks about it in two ways. Technically speaking, when Christ came, Israel had waited 1,500 years for the coming of the Christ, the coming of the Messiah. So when the Messiah came, that was the start of the last days. But we know it's been 2,000 years since then. So then the Bible talks about the last days in yet another way. And when it talks about the last days in that other way, it is talking usually about a 7-year period. Sometimes it's only a 3.5-year period. It is the 7 years or the 3.5 years just before Christ returns the second time. Now, he was talking to his audience saying that there will be people that will come and they'll start mocking, they'll start scoffing, they'll say, "Where's this return?" It was talking about the return of Christ because Jesus promised to return. And in Peter's day, of course, it hadn't been that many years. This was written in 67 AD, so it's maybe only been 30, 32 years, 35 years at the most, let's say, since Jesus actually died, but he had not yet returned. Now, why would this have been cause for somebody to scoff? Well, one big reason was that the Jewish temple was still standing. Jesus in Matthew 24 had predicted that the temple would be completely destroyed, utterly torn down, and yet it was still standing. And so that would give reason for some to scoff and say, "Oh, where's this big return he was talking about? Everything still continues on as it did since creation." Again, talking about Judaism functioning in a normal way, the temple still standing and all like that. So he's going to pick up on this theme in the rest of the verses that will come. But what he's trying to get the point across is that if the believers were starting to get shaken, when people were scoffing them, and they were starting to wonder themselves, well, he did say he would return. He did say the temple was going to be torn down. And here it is 35 years later, and it's still not torn down. I think Peter was trying to stabilize the believers, and he does that in the rest of this passage. And I won't give it to you now, but he puts his finger on something that's very fascinating, because we know now it's a full 2,000 years later, and Christ has not yet returned. Peter gives a very, very interesting insight as to how that looks from God's perspective. Well, thank you so much, and we'll pick up our journey again soon.